You're now listening to CHRISPIRACY.
Chris X Matt. We question everything.
Break the matrix.
We are the ones they fear.
If we don't make the change, it's never going to change.
CHRISPIRACY.
Yo, what's good, everyone? What's good with everybody? Grand day, my family. New week, new episode. This is your host, Chris X Matt. Welcome to another episode of CHRISPIRACY. It is October. I promised you guys guests all month. I promised we're getting spooky all month. You know, it's my birthday month. It's actually my birthday today, the day that this is dropping. So, happy birthday to me. And I wanted to kind of, stay in the realms of spookiness because it is the witching month. It is October. And, here on CHRISPIRACY, I always preach to you guys, or not preach to you guys, I always tell you guys how I want you guys to break out of certain illusions, to break out of the matrix, to realize that everything around us is really a psyop and everything going on is just, it's a show. The earth is a stage, and we have to, once the veil is lifted off the eyes, you just no looking back. And I'm at that point already where I'm not looking back. I see the way everything is, and I don't fall for anything. So now what I really try to do is create my own reality, because that's all we really can do is create our own reality. It just sucks that these people are running this realm, are controlling everything, and we kind of have to care to an extent. But so you guys know how I get down on here. I always talk about breaking illusions. I always talk about just breaking out of the matrix. Don't trust anything. Look at everything with a different perspective, because the truth is stranger than fiction. I've been telling you guys that. So, my guest today is just someone that's going to add on more to that, because I came across her on a certain podcast, on the Tinfoil Hat podcast, and I was just like, mind blown by the stuff that she was saying. But I can understand why someone would say, oh, this person is crazy, or this person is, saying all this crazy shit. Like, who knows, bro? It's conspiracy talk. I can get with all that. But when someone makes solid facts and they're presenting certain information and evidence, it's kind of hard just to be like, dismiss it and just say, nah. And I think for myself, I'm a free thinker. So I like people like this that are thinking for themselves, that are giving other people a different perspective. A lot of you guys don't know what loosh is. A lot of you guys don't know, like, just anything really. So I'm just trying to give you guys a new perspective on a lot of different shit. And especially if you guys know me, you guys are my friends, you guys are coworkers, whatever. You guys know me personally, this is for y'all, because I just really I don't know how to convince you guys, and I'm done trying to convince you guys. And I'm just putting out my episodes, and I'm just giving my word out. You guys can push play, you guys can hear it out, you guys can change your mind about certain things. But I love all you guys, so I'm really trying to look out for everyone on the bigger scale of things. So this guest today, it kind of just, it made me start looking at shit even more crazier. And then she made me start believing everything's fake, like completely. I don't believe anything is real anymore. Everything that we see on the news, fake. And especially now that she breaks it down with these colors, the lines of purple and all these things, it's like, I see it everywhere. Trump does a speech, why does he have a pink tie? Why does he have a purple, like, certain things where I'm just like, yo. And then when the Ghislaine Maxwell incident happened, I immediately thought of this account, and I was just like, yo, I wonder what she got to say about this, because I didn't believe it. We didn't get no picture of Ghislaine Maxwell. We got no video of Ghislaine Maxwell. And sure enough, she started breaking down certain pictures and how, look at the legs right here. It don't make sense. And it's just, I was just like, yeah, I didn't buy the Ghislaine shit. I don't even think she's arrested. I don't even think she's a real person. But this person doesn't think Jeffrey Epstein is real. She don't think 9/11 was real. And it's like, yo, a lot of this shit, I can understand how I can get people mad, but I'm all for that. I'm all for ruffling feathers. I'm all for trying to make you guys look at shit in a different perspective. So today here on CHRISPIRACY, I have none other than Human Vibration. How you doing today?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing great. That was quite the intro. You hit on so many really important things. You really did. You covered like all the different aspects that I try to focus on with my threads, with my handle at Twitter is really my only platform, but my handle Human Vibration. I think you hit on the illusion. You hit on how this realm we share, it's kind of like a big stage. You mentioned how I don't think anything's real and how I kind of talk about that. I do think a lot of things are real, but I think that what takes up a significant amount of our attention when we pay attention to things, I think so much of that is fake.
Mm,
And it's all of our systems, it's our educational system.
mm,
What we learn in school, most of that's just junk. It's our financial system. Money's not even real. We just all agree that these pieces of paper are worth something. They're really not. Secrets out. Our healthcare systems has nothing to do with our health whatsoever. um, these big systems that rule the world, they're all built on sand. They're all built on these kind of theories of how humanity should be living our lives, and the type of race that we should be running, this rat race that we're all like
yeah.
barreling towards.
Mm-hmm.
These dreams that are not our own, but they're driven by materialistic, capitalistic, idealistic gains, and none of them are ours. And
Mm,
we're kind of all living lives, even if they're blissful, wonderful lives. Like we're living we're living in a world of like mixed unreality.
mm,
Um, so much of that is coming through our screens. Everything we see on the news, it's whether it's good or bad. I think that that's something that we need to start wrapping our head around. Like it can all be fake. I focus on things that are kind of bringing out our negative emotions. I focus on things that really get us into feelings of like despair and fear and anxiety and disgust.
mm.
Whether it's what we're happening right now with COVID, like really bringing our anxieties to a maximum, or if it's things like you mentioned, like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, Ghislaine
Mm,
Maxwell, whatever her name
whatever.
is. I think that's part of it. They just want a million different names for her. But I think, these types of boogeymen, these people that they really don't we don't I've never there's no way that I can meet Jeffrey Epstein. There's no way I can ever meet Ghislaine Maxwell. 99.9% of the people on the planet, they are the same. There's very little way that I could independently verify these people's existence.
Mm,
But what I can do as a person sitting behind a computer, I can follow these stories in a different way. I can look at them through a different lens. That's really my superpower, is my ability to take information which exists everywhere. And this is not like information I'm finding down the rabbit hole. This is information that's widely available through news reportings, through just like the general information flow that we get as the public. So taking these stories and just looking at the exact stories we're given, but through a different lens, kind of assuming that they're lying to us. And then you begin to start seeing these little explanations away. Like, why have we not seen Ghislaine Maxwell's mugshot after she's
mm,
been in jail for months and months and months? And they have
mm-hmm.
all these reasons why not. Oh, it's a security precaution. It's like, no, taking someone's picture is not a security precaution. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, oh, it's because of COVID. It's like, oh, she couldn't take her mask off for the, for the mugshot. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to burn too much time on Epstein and Ghislaine, other than the fact that I think it's really important to understand that it is very possible, and it is very easy, and it happens all the time, where an identity is created,
Mm-hmm.
and that identity, that appearance of a person does not make any sort of appearance ever in reality. It's only through our screens. It's only in pixels. It's only on paper. It's only these like elaborate paper trails. And that includes court documentation. That
Mm.
includes even legal documentation. There's a concept that I explore pretty heavily in my account, and it's the concept of natural born person versus a legal person. And a legal person basically has all the rights and protections, and really on paper they can appear to be an actual person, and they can enter into legal contracts. They can do all sorts, everything that a natural born person would do.
Mm-hmm.
A legal person can do it too. The only difference is the legal person is just a storefront, an entity, and a created identity, and it's run by any other party. It could be run by an organization, it could be run by one person, but it's basically like you can set up a fake person and have
Mm-hmm.
them live a life under that. It's really interesting what can be done, and I think what is being done for a lot of these people that take all of the attention away from whatever. Like, it didn't
Like you
not
said,
really.
the boogeyman.
Yeah,
It
it's like a boogeyman,
it
and we learn
creates a
it as
boogeyman.
kids. that these boogeymen don't exist. And Jeffrey Epstein was one of them. I mean, God, when you really think about that whole rabbit hole of everything that's conceivably had been done on his island and everybody that's involved with it. And let me say, I was about a year ago, before I had my personal, what I believe to be my personal awakening, I was pretty deep down that rabbit hole of like thinking Epstein was at the very center of this human trafficking, human enslavement situation, definitely related to like all the Q stuff and,
Guilty of
the kind
that.
of like satanic ritual abuse, all this extremely, extraordinarily dark, exceedingly dark rabbit hole where you just go further and further and further. And at a certain point, there's really no light down a rabbit hole. These
Yeah.
rabbit holes, theoretically, when you actually think about what a rabbit hole is, it's farther and farther away from the light. And light is truth, you know? And so when you think about being lost down these rabbit holes, I really believe that they want these things to exist in our mind. They want these negative, traumatic experiences, stories, these nightmares, these daymares, essentially, where we're thinking about them when we're awake. They want these to exist in our brains because in doing so, it doesn't have to exist in reality. It exists very powerfully amongst millions of people. Think of all the Q followers. Millions of people have fallen into the rabbit hole out of pure curiosity and pure wanting to find the truth and knowing that what they're being told is not the truth. And so they kind of latch on to this other entity that's like, hey, I'm telling the truth. And that's not all to say that I think that everything within the realm of Q is false. I actually believe that there are a few little needles in the haystack amongst Q drops, but in general, I believe that they are leading, if you read it for face value and take it for what it's being told and take the Q community, I really think that there's a lot of deception within that in and of itself. And I think it's kind of leading people to make some pretty horrific judgments and imagine pretty horrific things and believe that the government is like even more powerful than they actually are. When in reality, I think that the government is not all that powerful. I think that they just appear to be powerful and like the quote unquote deep state. I think that it's more like a shallow cesspool. I don't really think it's deep, or I think it just appears that way. And everything they do, they have the ability to kind of create this faux world, this whole universe. I mean, just think about the whole Pizzagate universe, just diving down that with all the art and I mean, it's just it feels very real, and I at a certain point in my life had thought it was very real, but now I feel like I've jumped to a new realm. Like I see things from a different plane. I see things very differently now. Now I see that they wanted my attention. That's what they wanted. They wanted all this traumatic stuff about crimes against humanity, crimes against children. They wanted all that stuff to exist in my brain. Can I pause for just 1 second? I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. Sheesh, man. Yeah. Human vibration be wildin', man. She be wildin'. She got some crazy perspectives and theories, and we just getting into it. She hasn't even got into the good stuff yet, man. We haven't even got to the lines of purple. That's very interesting. The MK Ultra stuff. Definitely haven't.
About that.
Oh, you're good.
Every once in a while, real life knocks on the door and gets in the way of all my conspiracy stuff. Sorry about that. Sorry to your listeners. But anyway, so to kind of wrap up, I really don't want to talk about that topic for too much longer.
No.
But all that to say that I think that we are in a space where our reality is very different than the reality we are presented through our screens. I believe that even the word screen, I believe that it means a screen is a fence. A screen is a barrier. A screen is a method of concealment. And we are getting our information all day, every day, literally nonstop, from the moment we awaken in the morning to the moment we decide to close our eyes at the end of the day, put our screens finally down. That's where we're getting our information. We're getting our information not really out of the books anymore, not really from especially with quarantine, we're not really even getting our information from our friends and family members anymore. We're getting our information through our screens,
Yeah.
through these methods, these devices of concealment. And I think that our screens, essentially, if you really want to break it down, it's false light. It's false light being projected onto us, and that's literally what it is. All these tiny little diodes presenting themselves as light, giving us our visual information. But false light also represents just false information. And I like to always remember that light means information, and if it's false light, it's essentially the same concept. I've kind of brought this up too, but like the concept of Lucifer, which a lot of people take to mean like the Satanism, but Lucifer, it just means light bearer. And if that light is false, then like your devil is your phone, essentially. Like your light bringer is your iPhone in your pocket. That's your light bringer. That brings you light every day.
I would agree a little bit.
Disagree?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the phone's scary. I mean, I was having a conversation with my friend yesterday talking about how it's ultimately a being. It's a whole being in itself. Your phone.
Yeah, it is. And if you're getting, it's I like my phone just like everybody else. I'm
Same.
kind of addicted to it. But I do understand that at a certain point, it has taken over a lot of the processes that I am fully capable of doing, but I am no longer capable of doing. Like I no longer can remember a phone number to save my life. When before I'd say, I think I might be a little bit older than you, but I can definitely remember a time when I had like 50 phone numbers memorized of just without even trying.
Right.
I had all my closest friends. Their numbers were just, in my head without thinking about it. That's just a very minor example of something that we used to be able to do without thinking. It didn't take any sort of remembering on our part. It just something was happened naturally.
Right.
But now we're completely incapable of doing it because of our phones. Same things with kind of directions. Before we used to get places, no problem, and we used to contact the people that we needed to contact, no problem. Nobody had cell phones, but you were never out of communication significantly. But now, if you leave your phone for 5 minutes, it's almost as if you've severed your arm off, and you can't think about anything else. You can't do anything else. You're like, oh shit, where's my phone? Oh shit, and that's kind of that's an uncomfortable place to be when you have this device that is now shaping your world, giving you all the information you need to know, really connecting you to the whole entire world. And if all the information we're getting from our phones, like if every time you look down on it, it's feeding you false information, some false stories, these false stories, what do? They're trying to get our attention. They're trying to get our energy. Our energy is so powerful. It's really our focused energy is really the most precious resource on this planet. And I think so much of these devices and so much of these news stories and all these viral videos that we see, there's a reason things go viral. And I think it's because whoever is in command of orchestrating all of this, they want all of us to see certain things. They need all of us to see certain things. And so certain viral stories are just absolutely unavoidable. Doesn't matter what age category you're in. If it's a viral video, like everyone's going to see it somehow. And I think that's very powerful. And, I think that when I think back to certain viral videos, there's one in particular that really sticks out. And I think it connects with so many of the things that I talk about. But there was a time when there was a blue dress, gold dress, when nobody could figure out what the color of the dress was. And at the same time, there was kind of an audio phenomenon, the Laurel and Yanny, where you hear, and those came out at the same time. So it was blue dress, gold dress. So it was like showing us our visual, the ability that our eyes can be hijacked through colors. And everybody can see a different color depending on how your brain is primed. Your brain being primed to see a certain thing, you will. Same thing with the audio. Like the recording was one recording, but some people heard Laurel, some people heard Yanny, some people were in this where they could hear both. They could hear Laurel at some point, they could hear Yanny at some point. Yeah, but I think that just shows, it's not that the audio is changing in any way. It's that our ability to comprehend it, it's not in our ears and it's not in our eyes, it's in our brain. We do not see with our eyes. We do not hear with our ears. We do both activities inside of our brain. Our ears and our eyes are just the instruments to receive that information. Our eyes receive light and pass that information onto our brain. Our ears receive vibrations, both audio vibrations and light. They're both vibrations. A light wave is a wave. An audio wave is a wave. So these vibes are coming into our body, and they're being experienced in our brains. And our brains are what really tell us what's going on. A lot of philosophers, way smarter than me, they talk about how our reality is experienced in our brain. And I think, therefore I am. I totally believe that. I totally believe that this experience in this realm is guided, driven 100% by this computer that we are. Our brain, our central processing, our central nervous system, we are these electrical beings that are computing. We're quantum computing machines. We're artificial intelligence, whether we want to believe it or not, and we're pre-programmed with so many we're straight out of the box. We're pre-programmed with a few things, and I think that those things are very pure. Like as babies, I think that we're all born in with a sense of kind of perfection, purity, perfection. We're born kind of perfect, but then the rest of life is trying to beat that out of us, is trying to scare our humanity out of us. And we're traumatized from the moment we come into the world, like to get a baby to take a first breath.
Lights and shit.
The doctor like slaps it on the butt. And so it's like rude awakening from the first moment in. That's our first experience with trauma. Also, not to get too graphic for your audience, but little boys, they have to go through like this circumcision ritual, which is extremely painful, totally unnecessary, just like something society has decided that's the way we do it. But it's extreme pain, and that actually, there's a lot of psychology studies now that is like basically the original severing of the bond, of the betrayal between mother and son, between family and parents and child, because this baby comes into the world. You're its only protector, its only savior. It's really all end all be all. And immediately you put it into this like extremely painful exercise, this ritual circumcision. And that, even though babies don't necessarily compute and think in the way that we with our organized language do, there's still like there's still a severance there, like an extreme pain, extreme trauma. And so much of what I talk about with human vibration goes back to this trauma. I think trauma energy, which is loosh. Loosh is a phrase to represent the energy field that emits from us. And our emotions are part of that energy field. Our emotions drive that energy field. When we experience extreme feelings either way, whether it's sometimes positive extreme feelings, just because they feel good, can actually kind of rob us of they can actually be traumatic in a way. Like if you're extremely hopeful for something and have all this sense of hope, but then that thing doesn't happen, that hope turns extremely toxic. So positive emotions can be hijacked as well, but it really has to do with these negative emotions of pain, traumatic emotional feelings like anxiety and stress and sorrow and despair, and all these things that really get ratcheted up during these traumatic events that we're all very familiar with. We go through something together as a society. We go through something as a people, and that collective traumatic energy, that collective negative vibration, and energies have their own vibration. Every emotion vibrates at a specific wavelength within the body. Joy is very uplifting. A sense of joy, like you hear like that person's got a spring in their step, or that person's got, they're light on their feet. It's usually when you're describing someone who's happy, and you literally feel a sense of joy, like an exalting, uplifting sensation, a raised high vibration of joy. Now, when you're feeling negative feelings, you feel down. We literally talk about the opposite. We literally talk about, instead of like being uplifting with joy, and we talk about feeling down and feeling low. And these are vibrations that keep us down, these negative vibrations. Jealousy is one of them. Kind of shock, despair, anger, frustration, all of these negative feelings. So when you think about the society going through something, you think about an experience that we all share together, something really traumatic, something really scary, like a terrorist attack is one example. We collectively all experience this negative vibration, this negative human vibration. We are all low together.
Right.
And, if you were to measure, if you were to, step outside of just being in your own realm, if you were somehow able to measure the entire emotional register of every human being on the planet, we have certain tools that say they do that, the Schumann resonance. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's basically it's called the Schumann resonance, and it's supposed to measure the complete energy vibration
Yeah.
of everybody on the planet. I'm 100% sure if it does what it does, but it certainly measures something, and that's what it says it measures. So I'm open to it. And when we have extremely traumatic things happen, it seems to register a like event, with what it's picking up. It can feel, it can register when we're all feeling super down or super positive, super joyful, super enlightened. It can register those feelings as well. So it's kind of interesting to think of it from like an actual registering scientific standpoint. I tend to babble, so please
Now
get me
you-
back on.
so basically, loosh would be the energy. I mean, the energy they use to create our reality, right?
Yeah, I think that
I mean,
if you really,
I'm sorry. Let me reword that. It's the energy that the realm feeds off of us, the people, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I think it's the energy. If you think of it in that sense, it looshes the energy that we are outputting that something else is harnessing.
So
And
the
yeah,
COVID energy right now is what well, how would you just put it though? So that's the loose right now, the COVID energy we're
I
giving.
would say COVID is kind of the trap. COVID is the vacuum that's
Okay.
creating. Well, not the vacuum. That's a bad analogy. But COVID is like the lure. COVID lures. It's the carrot. It's dangly in front of us, and like we're all following this, all the news, all the stories, everything about COVID. Like it lures our emotions out of us. If we
Mm.
listen to something on the news that's negative and scary sounding, and hear the numbers of the death tolls rising and all this stuff, it's like it's luring our emotions out of us. It's luring this sense of angst and dread, and this psychological trauma. I really feel like that goes so much into it. Is certain stories, they are just they're just wired to grab our attention and to kind of keep us locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to know, we're constantly wanting to know what the latest is, and we never grow tired of it. We just and sometimes the worse the news, the more fixated we are on it. We just want to hear
Mm-hmm.
more and more and more and more, and it just becomes this kind of self-perpetuating cycle. Now, there's a lot of people that think that our world is kind of like there's like this energy grid all around, and this energy, it's kind of kind of invisible to us, but it's kind of taking all of our. It's like this energy highway where our loosh gets rattled from us, like literally vibrated loose. If you think of like our energy kind of sticking inside of us, then we get kind of jostled around with all these like vibratory
Okay.
energies, and then it kind of loosens, our loosh loosens, and then it gets it's more easily harvested. And so our energy just kind of gets taken away. And there's actually lots of users on Twitter that go into the cities themselves. Many cities are designed in such a way that it's like energy harvesting. Like the way that the city plan is put together, like all these monuments within the
Oh yeah.
city, kind of based around water reservoirs within cities. Like our energy goes somewhere. Energy is used for something. It absolutely is collected. They do want it. And so that's something that I think that everybody could be a little bit more just careful about where they put their energy, and where you focus your emotion, where you focus your attention. I think that is so important. Our world, we do manifest our own reality. If you think negative thoughts, your life is going to feel pretty negative. Your people around you are going to come down to your level. You're going to find negative people around you. I feel like our vibe attracts our tribe, And
Mm.
if you're in a really positive place, you're probably going to attract people that are like-minded, people that are attracted to that high vibration. If you're a low vibration person, you're going to find like-minded people as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of addictions, something that I've heard, people that are like addicted to, pretty severe drugs, like they can spot someone else just a mile away that's using the same drug that they are. Like you just become kind of wired and attuned to just being able to see the world in that way. That's just one, small example, but it's almost like a frequency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our traumas, our emotions, our inner being creates this frequency that we're operating on, and we're tuned into other people on that frequency, and we may miss a whole group of our best friend might be a potential, romantic interest might be floating around right next to us, but because we're not on the right vibration, we'll never come into contact with that person, we'll never meaningfully interact with that person. Whereas sometimes you interact, with someone's totally out of the blue, and that ends up being like you were meant to meet them at that very moment, so we kind of cross paths with people when we're meant to, good or bad. Sometimes,
Yeah.
that can really happen in a positive way and change your life forever, or you can meet, in a good way, or you can meet someone that just really takes you're already kind of going down that road, down a negative road, and then you meet someone that just like puts you on a roller coaster down.
Yeah.
And so there's, we have to protect our energy. We have to protect who we associate with, but it's really mostly, we can't blame anybody else. It really all starts with the type of vibe that we're living with. And I think gaining ownership over your emotional state is really, really, really important to be able to be in this world without letting it crush you.
Yeah.
Like we have to take ownership of our emotions, good and bad, especially bad.
Are you
And
spiritual?
am I spiritual? I
Yeah.
say I'm very spiritual. I would say there was probably a time where I would have considered myself atheist or agnostic. Right now, I'm just purely open-minded. I'm not saying that none of them. I'm not saying anybody's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like to find commonalities in like all the major world religions, and kind of show people that these quote unquote religions, they may just be stories to keep us in these certain thought prisons.
100%.
But that's not to say none of them are right, or
No, no, no.
that there's not a bigger thing, so it's more of like I'm just in this observational element of my life where I'm just trying to observe everything without putting too much of a my own, like this is end all be all, this is all I'll ever believe, I can't change my mind. I think that's really what I try to not to do. And I try to tell my followers or people that are curious, I try to tell them, I don't have all the answers, I just have a new way of looking at things. And when you have a new lens, everything looks different.
Yeah.
No matter where you point that lens, everything looks different. And so I'm just really exploring through this lens that I've found. This year, really, I found it this year, and I'm just trying to point it in every direction that I can, and then share that process on my Twitter. And sometimes it's really radical. I would say most of the time it's really radical, and people are like, "What are you on?" And no, I've never done a psychedelic. People are always like, "What psychedelics are you taking?" I've never.
You never done psychedelics?
Never done psychedelics. I'm
Oh.
open-minded to it, just never done it.
Oh,
But can you imagine what I would see if I did a
yeah,
psychedelic?
damn, I know you be talking in shrooms.
Yeah, I know people are like, "What are you on? I want some." But it's really just the ability to just think differently. Just think about everything.
I've learned to stay also in the middle and not pick a side, because that was my issue for the longest, where I would want to, like, you get into a rabbit hole and you believe something and you want it to be right, so you're on this side now, and then like 2 days later and more information comes out, it's like, oh, it's this way, and it's like, no, just stay in the middle and be open to all the information and just try to form your own opinion. But people are expecting people on TV or their phones to tell them how to think and how to process information, and that's our downfall, I think, because they're creating this. It's crazy. Just watching the news and all that. I'm like, I tell people at work, like, how you guys just sit here and like watch and believe this? Like you can go outside and see the hospitals aren't packed. You can go outside and see that. I mean, you can just see people aren't just dying like they said we're gonna die and just be falling,
dying in the street, exactly.
But people, they're waiting for, I guess, Fauci to say something. I don't know.
We have been through our systems, through our educational system, through life, we have been taught to not think,
Yeah.
essentially. We have been taught to just absorb through the media, and that's the answer. And that's, to trust and not question. I think that's a really dangerous. I've never been able to do that. I'm like my whole life, I've always been the contrarian. That's just something that I've always been very curious
Same.
and very contrarian. And I think that has served me. It hasn't always made me very popular. It hasn't really let me fit in very well, but like, I feel like it's served me in other ways to where I've been able to see things differently and I haven't been as affected by certain things as other people have. And it kind of like led me all through all my life. And now here I am kind of like at the pinnacle, I think, of this ability to see things differently and to kind of question the accepted norms. It takes, it takes a little bit of bravery, but it also takes a lot of like just it's almost like a dismantling of everything that you've ever known. I don't know what it takes, but it takes a special something that it doesn't exist in everybody. I don't think everyone is capable of questioning their beliefs in a true way. I don't think everybody needs to either. Like my sweet grandma, I don't need her to have a revolution in her brain. I just want her to live the rest of her life and be
Yeah.
happy. Like, I don't think she needs to, and I don't think she's even capable of trying,
Yeah.
but there's something to be said. Our kids are just being brainwashed from the moment they go into school, and all we teach them is about space and dinosaurs and things that are so far up and out and so far way back through time. Both time and space are up for, the jury's still out on whether those are real. The concept of time and space itself, like that is
Oh,
a
let
very
me stop you there. Let me stop you there, because I
question.
want to know your opinion. I want to know your views on space then, because I'm on the it's fake side. I mean, I'm more on. I
Yeah.
lean more towards that. What's
So
your views on it?
my thought with space is that everything we've ever been taught and told about space is a lie. That is not to say that there's no such thing as space. But what I believe is every photo we've seen from NASA, every basically every line of thought and every form of thinking that comes out of our agencies about space is not true or realistic at all. I think that it's all just fabrication. Why? I think they want us to believe that only governments that space exists, and that only governments can travel there because it's so dangerous and so expensive and so scary. Like, there's a reason that we learn as kids that space is a place where no one can hear you scream. We hear that space is a vacuum, and if you go up to space and scream, no one can hear you. As a kid, that sounds so scary. And
Yeah.
like, why would I ever want to be in a place where nobody could hear me scream? And so we're kind of like, we're taught to scare space and like, oh, well, we can't go there because we needed us, a spacesuit and a rocket ship and all these things. And so we're taught that, like, not only can we not go there, we shouldn't want to go there. And the only people that can go there is a specialized agency. And, everything we get from them is a computer generated image. And it's just like, where does this end? Where does this stop? And where does it start? And then with the dinosaurs, I think that it's this is two
Fake too.
wings of the same bird.
Yeah.
I think space is up and out, and dinosaurs are back and through, like through time. And it's like they're so far back. Everybody wants us looking into the past or the future or up into space. Nobody wants us looking inward at our inside, deep inside. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants us looking for the truths. I think the journey is inward for everybody. I think that we're all born with a certain set of truths. I think that we're all born with a unique set of skills. And I think that our journey is to find the truths that exist within each of us. And I think we all have a puzzle piece, a big piece of the puzzle, each as humans. I think humanity is the puzzle. Yes. And humans are the puzzle pieces individually. And I think we all have something very unique deep inside of us and very special, and like a true, like a light, like a flame, an inner flame. And on that note, the word pyramid means inner flame. Pyro meaning fire, mid meaning mid inside. So that the pyramid itself represents our inner flame. And the pyramid also represents, like, hidden energy source. Well, the hidden energy is our energy, our inner flame. We are the energy sources. Surprise.
And the properties of a pyramid? It's to throw out energy but also bring back energy. That's why it has the square on the bottom, because squares can like containment, and the pyramid would be like Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah,
Damn.
pyramid, middle fire, inner flame. That's us. Yeah. It's so, and words and wordplay. I love words.
Me too.
I think that I think when you start breaking words down and you see, how these root words are used, it's kind of like everyday trickery. I think that it's so incredible what they've done with the language, and they call it spelling
Yep.
for a reason.
Yep.
They call
Yeah.
it spelling. We're definitely like, our words have vibrations. Our words cast spells. Everyday words that we use that we're totally unaware of, they create their own energy fields, and
Mm.
they cast these spells off into the world without realizing it. And we chant these phrases and we say these little sayings, and we just have no idea what we're doing or speaking. And even the symbols of words themselves, these symbols are important. Everything's important,
Everything.
but we're told that they don't represent what they do
Mm.
represent, and we're given like all this, like, we're given all this false information about what we're really creating, and what we're really the energies that we're
Yeah.
putting out into the world and that we're receiving.
I believe space is a spirit realm. I'm more.
Yeah.
I lean more on that. I believe the planets are all just different dimensions and portals. The cosmos
Mhm.
would be our consciousness, and we're the stars. We're the star seeds. And I don't,
I could.
I personally don't think we've ever been to space. I
Yeah.
think
I believe.
the moon is in our atmosphere. I think all that's in the firmament, in the dome or whatever that's covering us. That's just me. And I do believe the sun is a portal, as well to go to because I don't know. I think we do live on a tree of life type thing where there's different realms, and I think the sun is the one that would connect like down to the North Pole ish, and then I don't know. I look at it very weird,
Yeah. No, I
mhm.
like that. You mentioned something. You mentioned the sun being a portal. That reminds me. I had this thought experiment. The Oz, the yellow brick road. Are you familiar with Wizard of Oz and how they talk about, follow the yellow brick road?
Yes.
Well, when the sun is setting, the sunset on water, it actually creates like this golden pathway, like the
Mm.
reflection of the sun on water at sunset. It creates essentially a yellow brick road. It looks like a golden path to the sun. And I've always wondered, like, I wonder if the sun is a portal. I wonder if that's like, if you could just like run on the water at sunset. Not that I've
Mm.
ever tried it.
Yeah.
I don't advise anybody to try it,
I
but
mean, like,
it is kind of
why would
interesting.
Bill Gates want to try to cover the sun, right?
Who knows? Yeah, and there's like fake suns. China has created a fake sun, which is basically just a series of hexagonal mirrors,
Mm.
and it basically provides the exact same energy. I mean, who knows? I also believe that the moon is not nearly as far away as they try to tell us.
Facts.
We can just see it with our eyes. We can see it with our eyes that things are not um, as far as they say. There's you really think about like everything they tell us, that we're just spinning at this very specific rate,
Yeah.
hurling through space. And yet here we are sitting, and everything is very calm, and there's never like an interruption, and there's
And
never any sort of turbulence or anything. And they have all these reasons to explain that away, but I can't imagine not hurling through space for infinity at at an incredible speed. They talk about like comets hitting us, but like, how have we not hit anything going through?
yeah.
We're moving through space,
Yeah.
like, how are people not like, well, here comes Earth, coming to get us? It's
But
like,
that's what
but
amazes me, how people
no,
can't just use like that the logic that they apply to what they believe on something else. That's what I don't. That it just throws me off. Cause
it's
like okay,
called double thought. It's called double think. There's actually a word for it, and it's the inability. It's the ability to hold two ideas in your head and not understand that those conflict with each other. Like, and people have no idea. Like, yes, I believe this, and yes, I believe this, but because I believe these two things, they should cancel each other out. But they don't. They don't. They just. I think that we're just primed because we're fed so much deception from childhood. Like, even the idea of Santa, that creates for kids, that creates this whole realm of falsification, of deception between parents and kids. And then we learn that Santa's not real, but we still see, once, even though we learn he's not real, we still have to put up with Santa for the rest of our
that's
lives, with
true.
like Santa being, it's like, okay, once we learn he's real, can't he just go away? But no, like, so it's, I think Santa is like this representation of so many things that are wrong with our society, not just like on the commercialism side, but on the mostly the deception side, how we
Yes.
we have these early deceptions that just really stick and take root, and even once they're proven to be deceptions, we still keep them around. It's very strange.
But hold on, do you think it still has the same effect? Okay, like say we do know Christmas is evil and bad and all that stuff, but are we still giving the same type of energy even if we're just celebrating but in a different way? Even though we know like, yeah, we're getting together with our people and we're having a dinner or whatever, but we just don't believe in the ideology in Christmas itself. Does it still have the
Mhm.
same effect because you are partaking in a national holiday? I don't.
That's a really interesting question, and I don't know the answer from like an energy standpoint. Like if everybody, even if we don't believe in Christmas, there are still rituals that we do during the holidays.
Okay.
There's still like the hustle and bustle of the holidays.
Okay,
Like there's
yeah.
still stress,
Yes,
like it's still like an energy capture field.
That's
Even if
true.
you don't believe in Santa, even if you don't believe in the religious aspects of it, you're still most likely going out and buying gifts. You're still
That's
most
true.
likely interacting with your family. Not saying that these are bad things to do, but like there is a lot of energy that there's these ritualistic activities that we all enter into during certain times of the year. Christmas around that time being one of them. There's just a lot of, and then there's all these ceremonial things that we do, and a tree with a Christmas tree with a light on top. That's actually like a super pagan kind of Luciferian evil symbol. I don't necessarily, some of these, yeah, just because it's a symbol doesn't mean it's whatever. But
And we're chopping down
sometimes,
the tree of life, like all this,
yeah,
this
exactly.
symbolism.
And it's like we chop it down and then we put it and then we prop it up and it's like a false idol. It's very
Yeah.
strange. So whether or not we understand and comprehend exactly what we're doing, to, just because we put a light at the top of our tree, does that mean we're participating in this symbol of the darkness? No, we're just putting a light on the top of our tree because we think it looks pretty. But there is a bigger picture. These
Yeah.
things do mean something. There is an energy capture that happens during these specific times. They want us doing these particular activities in mass. They want a lot of people doing these activities, not just a few families. They try to make it like as big as possible. And that's why I think Christmas is kept around. Even now Christmas is no longer just like a Christian religious holiday. Christmas is no longer just about Santa. Like they've really opened it up to everybody because they want everybody participating in this event. I don't necessarily have the answers as to
Yeah.
what this means in the bigger picture, but it is important that we begin to realize that we are ritualized. We do these things year over year without really thinking, without taking too much thought about it. But like come December, we get into a frenzy over shopping and eating and being merry and singing and listening to very specific songs and doing very specific things. We don't even think about it.
I don't. I know. I'll be singing those songs too all the time.
I know, and they get stuck in your head, and you're like, "Oh, this fucking song!" And it starts at like October now. But I wonder how
Beginning
this
to
year.
look a lot like.
I know. Yeah, it's a good one. And all those songs are kind of creepy when you really listen to
Yeah.
the lyrics. Like
Jingle Bells is creepy. Not the one that
I
goes
know.
ding 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 ding
Yeah.
ding 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 ding. That shit's scary
Oh
as
yeah,
fuck.
that's a very dark. That's a very dark. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Nutcracker.
Yes,
That's what
Nutcracker. There
that
you
is.
go.
Yeah, that's a very dark play, a very dark dance. The Nutcracker dance. But it's just so interesting, and this year has been notable for a lot of reasons, but this year is notable because it's been checking a lot of those things. Like the ritual of going to church every Sunday this year has taken that down. The ritual of going to school to get your education, that has been taken down by 2020. The ritual of going to a doctor's office for medical checkups, all this, that's kind of been taken down by 2020. Organized sports to some degree has been a lot of these a lot of these systems that require our ritualized energy and our ritualized activity to support them. They've been kind of taken to task this year, for good, bad, better, worse. I'm not sure. I wasn't someone who went to church every Sunday, so or any Sunday really, to be honest. But but so that didn't affect me. But I can imagine that many people are affected just in insane ways because of their activities have been dismantled. Their rituals have been dismantled. Their lives have been upended by 2020, by COVID, by this entire, by the financial crisis that we're, kind of, a lot of people have lost their livelihoods. more people have been disrupted by, the financial aspects, obviously, than
Right. Yeah.
what they're telling us about the health aspects. I still personally don't know anybody who's been affected by COVID-19 health wise. Don't know anybody who's been sent to the hospital or passed away from it. And so I wonder, but I do know people that have lost their job.
Yeah.
I know way more people that have lost their job than people
Facts. Yeah.
affected by it.
Mhm.
So that makes me think, that makes me wonder about what the bigger picture is. Um, it's just a weird time. Every time you see a pandemic movie in Hollywood, like you said, people are dropping in the streets. This is not the outcome that we've been told happens during pandemics. Like, I look around, my bubble looks the same. Nobody's been affected health wise by this pandemic. Uh, and I just can't see it. I don't see anybody being affected on a bigger scale either, except through what I see on the news, except through what I hear, on the radio, through my Twitter, through my, my morning, news program, evening news program, all day news program. You hear about people dying left and right, but I'm in my city, in my community, I'm just not seeing those numbers represented. Like, there's no more funerals happening in the cemetery than before. There's the hospitals do not appear overrun. They actually don't seem like there's anybody there.
Yeah.
It's just a very interesting, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing through my screen, what I'm hearing through my my radio, what I'm hearing through the TV. It just doesn't add up with what I'm seeing, what I'm able to observe with my own eyes, with my own five senses. Not that our five senses should be trusted all the time. Like I said, most of it's happening in our brain. Our senses are just feeding our brain information, and then our brain decides what to do with that information. And our hearing, our sight, all of our main senses can be manipulated and can be hijacked in a certain way. So, but the reality that we observe, it just when it's so different than the reality we're hearing on TV. Humanity sucks when you watch TV. Humans suck. Humans suck when you watch the news. Like, we're evil. We're awful people.
Yeah.
But I've never really met anybody as cold-hearted as the people that I am being shown on TV all the time. I think that a lot of these interpersonal situations, like racism, I think that it exists way more on TV than it does in reality in our community, person to person. And like, babies can't be born racist. Babies are not racist. This racism is taught. It's not something that we're born with. We're taught, and we're mostly taught through our history books.
And
we're
propaganda
taught how
too.
horrible we are. And exactly, in history
Hollywood.
books,
That,
Hollywood,
yeah.
we're shown all these instances of, like, humans are racist. Remember, humans are racist. And it's like, what if we never showed our kids anything about anything? Like, what if we just never taught them that humans were bad? I think that they would grow up more whole, better. I think that just by introducing and trying to warn our kids about all the dangers of the world, we're actually, like, instilling these dangers into them. We're, like, creating these monsters just by teaching them these things. Whereas, like, I don't know, I think that we're influencing our kids really negatively by teaching them constantly about how bad humans are, about how racist we are, and about how I do say that from I'm a Caucasian female. I definitely have to check myself with my white privilege. I was born into a subset simply because of the color of my skin. I've had a very specific exchange in this world, and I'm very aware of that. However, I have lived in other countries, and I've seen the world, and I've seen a broader world too. And the world is good. People are good. People are beautiful, and people are good. And I believe in the goodness of humanity and the oneness and the wholeness of us as a people, way more so than I would ever want to give any sort of reverence or let hold water, like the idea that humans are born bad and like there's like bad seeds. I think that people are taught bad behavior and people are taught bad ideas, but I think everyone's born with positivity. I think everyone's born, like, perfect.
Yeah, I could agree.
We're just fed bad shit through the rest of our lives.
We perverted so young too.
Yeah, it happens really young, it happens really young. And like all these kids programming as adults, when you watch the kids programming, you're like, what is this? Like, it's very sexual. It's very violent. It's very,
Yeah,
coded. There's all these like, it's garbage,
it
garbage
is.
in, garbage out. And,
It is.
that goes with food. There's no such thing as junk food. There's junk and there's food, you fuel yourself with junk, you're gonna garbage in, garbage out. You're not gonna feel good. You're not gonna operate good.
Yeah.
Same thing, in our information is our fuel for our brain. The information that we take in, that is, if you put garbage in, garbage out again. If you are just feeding yourself really negative stuff through whatever sources, if you go on a Twitter binge, or not Twitter, what Twitter binge, yeah, or if you go on a YouTube binge and you just watch all these like really negative videos, like, you're not gonna feel better after that.
At all,
You're
no.
not gonna you're
Mm-mm.
gonna you're gonna be fed a pretty negative slipstream of information. You're gonna feel pretty shitty after you get done with that. I feel that myself. I have to take Twitter breaks every once in a while because Twitter gets so negative. And I really try to be like, hey, this isn't real. Hey, this isn't real. Hey, this isn't real. Don't let it get you. Don't let it get you. Don't let it get you. And I feel like that is my way of combating, like, really to myself, of like
Yeah.
reminding myself, don't fall into this trap.
Yeah.
It may appear really sensational. It may appear really dramatic. It may appear really awful, whatever word you want to put in there, like horrific, traumatic, and you kind of can't look away. It's like a car crash. But, I have to tell myself, just because it looks real, just because it is all these things, doesn't make it authentic, doesn't make it truly representative of reality. And I see that every day. I see that, and one thing that helps is, you mentioned it earlier, is what's called the line of
Oh,
purples.
thank you. I was
That-
just about to get into that. I was just about to get into
yeah,
that. Okay.
yeah. So this is pretty new to me. I really started picking up on it in, I think, June or July of this year, which is when I started tweeting about it. But I started noticing a common thread. All of these stories, I had already picked up on a lot of these things being fake, and that had already
This is your own theory, though, right? Like,
this is my own. The line of purples is a real thing, but this is my
okay.
own theory about how it's applied. The
Okay.
line of purples. Let me just kind of back
Okay.
up. So the line of purples, when you think about the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Roy G. Biv. So when you think about the rainbow, red's on one side, violet's on the other side, and we have to remember that violet is not purple. Violet is a shade of blue. They've always said, like, roses are red, violets are blue. Violet is
Oh,
blue.
okay.
So purple is not anywhere in the rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Nowhere in there is purple. Where is purple created? Purple is created when our 2D rainbow, which starts at one end with red, ends at the other end in violet, when that rainbow wraps around itself from 2D space to 3D space. So taking a 2D rainbow into 3D space, it wraps around itself. And so on one end you have red, the other end you have violet. These are extreme ends of the spectrum. So when those two extreme ends wrap around themselves, they meet again. And so red comes together, violet comes together, and they create this boundary of where they artificially meet, because they're not really supposed to meet. They're really supposed to be at opposite sides. So when they wrap around, they create this boundary called the line of purples. And it spans from our extreme red, one end, to violet, so infrared, to ultraviolet. And in between, this area in between that is created by the wrapping of the 2D rainbow into 3D space, that creates this boundary called the line of purples, and red plus blue equals purple. And so you've got the red on one side, the blue on the other side. They're wrapping together. They're creating this purple, and within this line of purples spans purple and magenta into red. So blue. So it goes from hyper blue to hyper red, and everything in between is like purples. That's why it's called the line of purple, shades of purple. And
Okay.
pink is a shade of purple. And purple and pink are both optical illusions, essentially, that we experience in our brains. We see the colors in everyday life, like, someone wearing a pink shirt. Yes, they're wearing a pink shirt, but there is not a light wavelength for pink. There is not a pure wavelength of light for the color pink. The color pink is experienced in our brain because it's a mixing of other wavelengths.
Mm.
Pink is a color. It's basically red plus blue minus green, and that is what we see as pink. And it's a sensation in our brain more than anything else. Some people can't even see the color pink. Some people are literally colorblind to the color pink because their brain just will not do that. It will not make that leap. And so they can't see it. Same thing with certain shades of purple. A lot of colorblind people are not able to see shades of purple because that's another thing their brain is just not doing. It's filtering out this kind of, it's filtering out the lines of purple and saying, nope, I'm only taking in the blue light from one end. I'm only taking in the red light from the other end. I'm not letting them mix. I'm not letting them create. Their brain is not letting these two wavelengths create this color sensation that we know is purple. So all that said, I really started to notice through a lot of the viral videos, a lot of the traumatic stuff, they just all started to look purple to me. Like everything seemed to have a purple hue, or like there was like a glaring, pink something. I really started to notice it with the pink pizza man from the Minneapolis riots. There was this like guy that was holding a pizza and he was wearing a pink shirt and he kept following. He was like at the AutoZone when the AutoZone was being, put up in flames, and it was like, why is this guy in a pink shirt? Why is every piece of video like, who is this guy? And they never identified him. He was never like known or identified, but something about the pink shirt just really stuck in with me. And then I started seeing pink everywhere. I was like, why does pink have to be in every single one of these videos? And everyone had like a pink umbrella. And so there was just something that I started to notice. And then I started to notice it with purples as well. And then, I do a lot of work on like 3D. I do a lot of research on that because it kind of goes in with like my whole thing about like, CGI creation and kind of 3D reality and manipulation and kind of real-time graphics and all that stuff. But I learned about this concept called the line of purples, and it's a real thing. You can just Google line of purples. You'll see a Wikipedia entry. I post that kind of diagram. That's directly from Wikipedia. So you can learn a lot about it. It's a real thing. And it's this barrier in our 3D color space and how our world is perceived through our eyes. And it is basically like a whole barrier of optical illusion, and all the colors that fall within the line of purples, which, is like many shades of purple, purple and pink and magenta. The word magenta, if you think about it, if you break it down, the word magenta is like magic enter. And I think the color magenta shows up in a lot of, it shows up surprisingly throughout history, even when you look back at like some very traumatic, significant events, like when you think about the JFK assassination and you look at Jackie's pink suit that she wore, that was kind of like a signifier to the world that what we're about to see is not necessarily authentic or real. And that's why I think that there's still questions about the JFK assassination all these years later. No one can pinpoint it because we're all asking the wrong questions. We're all working with a set of tools and like we're all working in a sandbox with the sand is all fake. I think that if we ask bigger questions about these events, whether or not they really happened in the way that they're portrayed to have happened, or if that's just the story, I think that we might find that a lot more things could be illuminated if we start asking bigger questions. But yeah, so the colors, purple and pink, like they're just everywhere now. If you have two eyes and a brain, and you can't see purple every day when you're looking at these traumatic, especially with COVID, like every COVID story, like everyone's wearing pink and purple. Yeah. And if you can't see it, it's probably time to get your eyes checked or your brain checked. Yeah. But it's something that you really don't notice. You're not supposed to notice. You're really not supposed to see it. But once you become aware that these colors are signifying something bigger, you begin to see the color. You can see them. Yeah. Not that they weren't there before. You will begin to notice them, and then you will begin to see them everywhere. It's almost like all of a sudden the world became purple, like overnight for you. And it's not that it's any different than it was the day before. Yeah. It's just that you're now aware of it. And I noticed that people will follow me and they're like, I don't see it. And I kind of explain it to them. And then within a week, they'll be DMing me going like, oh my God, everything's purple. Has it always been this way? And my answer is yes, it has always been this way. But now your brain knows what to look for. Now your brain is ready to pick it up. Where before it was just like dismissing all of this information. You were seeing purple, but you weren't going like, why am I seeing purple? It was just, your brain wasn't even questioning it.
So do they wear pink on purpose though? Or is it purposely done, or how does it work?
I think a lot of these videos that we're seeing it in are just completely fabricated, and everything we're seeing is like a fabrication. And so in that instance, these colors are inserted digitally. These like these scenes are
Okay.
created, and part of the scenes are colors built in.
So like I remember when you posted the presidential debate night and everyone had pink masks on, right?
Hmm.
Like, are they told to wear pink masks, or that's just like the TV, whoever's presenting it to us is making them pink, or like how does it work? Or how do you
Yeah,
think
so
it
I
works?
think that they're either I think that it can work in multiple ways. I think that people are actually either truly wearing these colors
Mm-hmm.
and they're in the background truly, and maybe they were told to, or
Okay.
they were given these color, like they were all the same mask, they all had like MAGA, they all look like they were from some company. Maybe they're given those masks, they know
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be sit behind the president. Or maybe these people aren't there at all, and like everyone that looks like they're behind the president is just like CGI fans, like just like we're seeing with all the sports now,
Yeah, I
like
like that.
everybody kind of, we don't know how these, we don't really know, especially with COVID, they're doing all these things like green screen rallies. People say that these things are in person. We don't exactly know what feed we're getting from the cameras. We don't know if we are getting a true
Wait. You said
representation.
green screen rallies?
Could be, like
Whoa,
I know,
damn,
like
that's
I know a
crazy.
lot of, yeah, I know. We just don't know,
Yeah.
we don't know what's really going on.
And
We just see these
yeah,
things.
I'm getting to that point too, where it's like if it's not physically in front of me, like I just can't believe it no more. I'm sorry, I don't know, But yeah,
Yeah.
you got me thinking like that now. But the rally one, that's a good one because it possibly could be because we're only seeing it on our screens.
Yeah. And the green screen technology is so easy. It's just really
Yeah.
easy to do, and it's easy to have it look extremely real. And we don't, as a public, we are so far behind what actually exists.
Uh huh.
Like what we can get our hands on as far as green screen
Uh,
technology, we can create something that looks like absolutely real. But what actually exists is like so indistinguishable from real life that we would never even know to think, to question. It's just, we see it as reality, and there's just no questions asked because it's not registering anything in our brain to be like, we just don't even know to question. um, I think that the human brain, I think, is the most sophisticated like pattern recognition computer on the planet. I think that the properly calibrated human brain can spot unreality in an instant without even thinking about it. And we actually have something built in. We actually have something called the Uncanny Valley. And that is a sensation that every human being is programmed with, that if we see something that is presented as real life, like a robot, but it's very close to looking real, but not quite real. You know how sometimes when you see like these talking robots, it gives you like a weird feeling. It looks freaky
yeah.
because like it looks real, but we know it's not real. Like there's this, it's called the Uncanny Valley, and it literally is a sensation, like this dropping sensation in our stomach, where we're like weirded out. We're almost like disgusted by what we see. And it's like every human being has it. Some are stronger than others, but like specifically developed for us to spot unreality, and it's baked into us. And some people say it was so that primitive humans could like spot maybe a predator lurking, like that maybe looked human, like a Bigfoot or something, like,
Yeah.
but we could tell from a distance by the movements, by something that we could spot from a distance that this thing was not one of us. So that's what they're like, why do we have this sensation called the Uncanny Valley if, back in the day we didn't need to spot robots? And it's like, well, it was because there were other things that kind of moved like humans, or maybe like, you know, or people that were sick, we would notice that we wouldn't mate with people that were unwell or whatever. There's all these different reasons. But what, at the end of the day, what it does is it basically is something in our gut. Or not something you think so much with your brain, but something you feel with your gut. A gut reaction, a visceral gut reaction that this is not authentic, this is not real. And so when you see these like CGI, like these deep fake videos, when you see examples of them, a lot of them look really fake. Like a lot of these, you can just tell, like it doesn't look like it at all. And that doesn't really necessarily hit that Uncanny Valley, but it's when they look really real, but you also know what you're watching is fake. You get this kind of sensation of like, ooh, that's so, it's like this very strange feeling. Anyway, so that is baked into us. And I feel like if we can learn to listen to that sensation, you can just spot unreality just scrolling through news, Twitter, whatever. Like you can spot a fake face. You can spot a false identity without even thinking about it. Like, and you can train your brain to do that. And it's like a muscle to where if you continue to train it, it'll get stronger and stronger. Whereas if you just ignore it and never even think about it, it will atrophy and wither away and you'll lose it completely.
Yeah.
And so I think that for me, like spotting unreal faces has become pretty much second nature. I don't even have to think about it. I just feel it. And so if something strikes me as unreal, I'll watch it again. I'll just listen to my gut. I'll be like, okay, I don't know what it is about this person that struck me as unreal, but I got this sensation. So I'm going to watch it again. And then I'll watch closer, and I'll usually look for the colors. Like, okay, this whole thing is pinks and purples. So that tells me right there. Or I'll, really look at their, sometimes you can tell like on the neckline, you can see some weird stuff happening, or you can just like, there's just, or their eyes sometimes have a filter that, there's lots of things that there's lots of ways that I can like take my gut feeling and then like drill deeper and try to look into it. And I try to share all of that on Twitter and show how I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm making the judgment calls that I'm making. I've kind of gotten away from that lately because I've just been too obsessed with the purples, but
Dude, so
really,
anytime you see that color or the purples or pinks, whatever, in any pictures, you automatically dismiss it?
well, I will not dismiss it as fake necessarily because it could be real, but it could also be just misleading. Like it could just be telling you that what we're talking about is misleading. Like my newscaster, this morning they had this whole segment on COVID and everybody they interviewed was wearing pink and purple.
Yeah, that's weird.
It made me think like, okay, well, these people are, this whole story, just because every element and every person inside is real, but like I think at the end of the day, like the story itself is misleading, and so the colors are indicating like just a manipulation of information. They're not necessarily representing fake people.
No,
or
fake
scenes.
I get that. And at the same time, I wonder if like for those who know, like if you know type thing. So I wonder like if elites that are watching that shit, like okay, yeah, one of ours is up there doing their thing.
I think so. I think that there are people that are able, there's something about like the symbols, like speaking in symbols. This is one of the most glaring symbols that is so easily seen by everybody, but so missed by most.
Yeah.
Like I can see it just in an instant now that I'm looking for it. But like, just think of everybody who's seeing these purples all day long that isn't thinking about it, hasn't thought about it. They're blind to it essentially until they become aware of it. And then once they're aware of it, even if they don't know why, I don't think it's not necessarily that important to know why for everybody. I think it's ultimately important for everybody just to like understand the what, like that there's purple everywhere. Can you see it? Can you see purple? Yes or no? And some people are like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. But then you'll show them like a million examples. Like just open up your Twitter, open up your CNN.com. Just look at every picture on the front page. Just start looking for purple, and that's it. That's all you have to do. And you'll begin to be like, okay, well, that's all purple, and that's purple and pink. Well, why does that picture have to be purple and pink? You start noticing like, oh my God, all these things really are like, especially when it's related to these specific stories. You mentioned North Korea at the top, like that was one of the first things you mentioned. And if you really want to just look, I recommend Googling North Korea and looking for pinks and purples, and you will see pretty much every picture that is related to that city has pinks and purples all over it, especially when they're talking about their nuclear weapons, and there's always like a flash of pink in all the pictures. It's pretty wild. I highly recommend. And so what that tells to me is that what we're being told about North Korea is not authentic, is not the real truth. I do believe that there is a zone within the country, the country of Korea. There it is now, like there's a southern zone, and then there's a middle zone called the DNZ, the D something zone. I forgot what it's called. And then there's North Korea, but you really can't pass from one to the other. And I do believe, before the war in 1947, I believe is when the war began there, and they split from 1 to 2. Everybody was made to get out of North Korea, everyone. And so I have a theory that there's not a population of North Koreans trapped inside North Korea. It's just like almost like a movie set. It's just we
Damn.
are given a little bit of information about this place. All the information we're given is that it's, they're like an evil overlord. They
Yeah.
can ruin the rest of the world at the drop of a hat. It's run by this crazy man, this crazy family. People there, can't get out. All this stuff. We don't know. We don't know if that's true or not. We don't, and nobody can independently go verify. A citizen journalist could go, but you're really only like toured around a very specific part of the city. You can't just go to North Korea and go check it out. Like it is, you have to really walk through fire to try to even get there. And then once you're there, you can only see like a tour. It's almost like go to Disneyland, and you kind of like are led on this little tour of like the places that you can see, but there's a whole world behind that you can't see. You're never going to be able to see. And so I have a feeling that everything, just like space, everything that we've ever been told about North Korea is a manipulation of facts, a manipulation of reality.
Wow. But but for what purpose, in your opinion, do you believe they would do something like that?
I think the end game is to keep us imprisoned by fear.
Okay.
We do not make rational decisions when our decisions are governed by fear. Fear is the easiest. Fear is an invisible prison that we happily lock ourselves into.
Uh-huh.
The government, there's really two ways to control a population, one being force and the other being fear. And force is relatively tricky. It's relatively tricky to force a population to do anything. It's exceptionally easy to trick a population into doing whatever you want through fear. I mean, if the CDC said, stand on one foot and hop around, and that will cure corona, I guarantee you many people would do exactly that at the drop of a hat
100%.
without asking questions. And so if they want us to do things without questioning, all they have to do is give us a reason, and that reason has to be based in fear. And we will do those things. We will act a certain way. We will self-govern. We will self-isolate. We will tattle on our neighbors for not wearing their masks. It turns humans into the prisoner and prison guard. And that's all they need. That they,
We do the work for them, huh?
We do all the hard work for them. Exactly right. So, to ask why, I think the why is to keep us locked in to this state of unquestioning any bigger pictures. We're so locked into fear. We're so locked into this narrative. And, when you're stressed, you're not thinking of a bigger picture. When you're stressed about your paying your rent every month, when you're stressed about, paying the rent and the light bills and all this stuff, you're not thinking about, am I in a simulation right now? No, you're not thinking
100%.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
You're locked in. When you're thinking about like, everyone's dying because of coronavirus, you're not taking time to be like on the second breath going, I wonder what the purpose of religion is. Like you're not thinking these bigger thoughts because you are, you're in prison. It's thought prison. It's theater of the mind, and it creates a thought prison for us all. Where if you get to a point, kind of like me, when you start to see these things as not existing at all, not just being fake, but just these concepts. These are just concepts that we hold in our mind. These fears, all of our big. There's a phrase, "Nothing to fear but fear itself," and I think I believe that fully. I believe that so many of our fears, quote unquote, are based in falsehoods, have been given to us, granted to us by our forefathers, but they're not real. They're just inherited. And sometimes when it's really difficult to kind of unencumber yourself from all these deep-seated fears that you've held onto your whole life. And yes, it's okay to be a fear of heights, like that's very real, and like a fear of, but there's societal fears that really keep us locked in. And if we weren't living these lives that we're living, we wouldn't have those fears. We wouldn't, fearing, like even school, like even fearing, we have all these fears. We put on these fears on kids, trying to make the grades and get to the next thing and get the school and they get the scholarship and get all this stress and fear about these stages of life. All that's bullshit. Like, we don't even really need to go to school. We don't learn, like if we could redesign humanity, school as it exists today would not and should not be a part of, humanity. As learning and knowledge is utmost important. I totally believe that. I absolutely believe that. But I think what we're learning right now is filling our head with nonsense. I feel like so much of the educational system is just nonsense. And language in and of itself, language is just a tool for deception. I think that if we didn't have these languages, I think humans would be able to communicate no problem. No problem. I think language just keeps us. I think exactly. I think there's a telepathy between all. There's a human connection.
Yes.
I think that is so deep in us, and I think we gets rewritten. Our internal intrinsic language gets rewritten when we introduce these romantic language, these Latin languages,
And
these
they have
English
us
and
on lower frequencies too.
Exactly. And what do language do? It doesn't help us communicate. It helps us deceive. Helps us deceive others. We're not truly communicating our most people are living just all day. All day is deception. Even when we just have these pleasantries like, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. How are you?" Like inside it's like, "Well, I'm actually falling apart. All these things are going wrong in my life." But instead, we just have these pleasantries that we operate in. Whereas if we didn't have language and we were communicating, through telepathy, you wouldn't even have to ask someone how they were doing. You would be able to register everyone's ultimate truth at all times, but we wouldn't need to be deceiving each other over all these things. This is totally theoretical, but all of this is to say that there is a way of living and there is a way that we could be operating that is so different, so just night and day from the way that we are living our lives now, from the way that humanity is structured now, the way the human race is a loop. We're racing on a loop, and I'm trying to break us off that loop, one brain at a time, trying to wake us all up. And my weapon, I like to say, my weapon is my torchlight, is my inner flame. My light is guiding me.
Yes.
I am on my journey inward, and my light is guiding me on my journey inward. And if I can shine my light bright enough, not only will I be able to see better, but I think others that are kind of nearby, they'll be able to see my light as well. And I will hopefully illuminate, a path for us all. So it sounds kind of strange, but that's kind of my goal is to share my personal journey on this public platform through Twitter and, make these associations for myself. Not everyone's going to understand what I'm saying. Not everyone's going to connect with what I'm saying. Certainly, it's a big leap for people, but what I have noticed is there are a few people, there are some people that have reached out and they have shared that through the way that I'm showing how I'm looking at the world, it's kind of changed the way that they're able to see the world and released them from certain pain, certain stresses, certain anxieties, certain fears. Now they're no longer super worked up every time they see a news story about people dying with COVID, because first they see the purples and then they remember what I say. And then it's like, oh, this is just one of those stories. Yeah. This is just, and people tag me and they like human vibration, look at the purples. I love that.
I know.
People send stuff. They'll send me pictures of people like, is this person real? And I'll have to dive in. I love that. I love that people are curious. I think curiosity is what makes us human. Curiosity is what keeps us, most human. When you stop being curious, you've kind of given up. When you just accept everything for a face value, if you accept everything you hear from the news, you accept everything you hear from your teachers, you accept everything you hear from your boss, whatever, I think that can serve you if you're just dead set on marching this game called life, and never question anything, then by all means keep doing that. But that's not the way I want to live, and that's not the way that I find that is most fulfilling for me. I find it very fulfilling to sometimes have to throw everything I believe against the wall and see if anything sticks. Sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes I have to reevaluate everything that I believe. I go through those cycles, pretty often. This year being kind of a new iteration of that, of what do I believe and why do I believe it? I think that's really important, to be able to be able to disconnect yourself from what you believe is like your identity of what you believe, because a lot of what we believe is not even us. It's just other people's thoughts that we were taught, and it's not our own unique thoughts that have only come from within. That does come. I think inner knowledge does exist, and that does come, but we do not let ourselves have those personal deep internal thoughts that come from within when we're so busy thinking about what other people think, and we're so busy just taking in information from other people. And just think, I like to spark ideas and curiosity in other people so that they can then make some big leaps for themselves. I like to say I don't have all the answers. I really do not. I'm not a resource for all the answers. I'm just a unique resource for a different way of looking at old information. And maybe that can help you see some old information in your own life in a new and different way. Maybe help you, you know, unravel, some of the things we feel are so tightly held, kind of hold us down, and sometimes we need a little bit of an unraveling to see things in a new way. That's kind of my thought. That's why I do what I do.
How do you choose who you share this information with in real life? Like your family, friends? You
I
don't?
really
You keep it
don't.
all to yourself?
I don't. No, I really keep it to, I share things with people that are the closest to me. But even the people closest to me, they aren't on board. They're not, they appreciate that this is how my brain works.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
fine. Yeah.
I don't need disciples. I don't need everybody to agree with me. That doesn't make me feel more or less validated that my message doesn't resonate with everyone. I know my message was not going to resonate with everyone. My message isn't for everyone. I think people that are on a path for themselves find me in certain ways. I think they'll come across my page when, like, at the moment they're ready, like at the moment they're most curious, at the moment they're looking for something. I feel like people often stumble upon me, and because people will reach out and be like, "Whoa, I was just thinking about this thing, and then I saw your page, and then I went down, and then I fell down the route." And I'm like, "Good, I think you were ready to find my page at that point." Like, I think if you had found it maybe a week before, you'd been like, "Who's this crazy bitch?" I think that so it doesn't really bother me. But I also am capable of having these thoughts, and sharing them on Twitter, but also leading a relatively normal life.
The
I
blue
don't
pill
have
life.
yeah, I've got both. I pay my taxes, I feed my dogs, I, call my mom, I water my plants. I have a loving family. I think that my ability to interact in this world has not been like dampened by my ability to see the world in a new way. It does make it tough some days because I'm like, ugh, none of this matters. Like when I'm working, I have a very fulfilling job and I love what I do, but there are certain moments where I'm like, this really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it helps the most when I'm getting stressed out about work. That's when it helps the most. And I'm thinking about like, this is stressing me, and this is stressing me, and this is stressing me. And I have all these anxieties about what I think people are thinking and all this stuff. And it does help me to realize, like, for the most part, a lot of our stress we just introduce to ourselves, and people are not thinking what we think they're thinking. People are not, if I I'm late to send a certain email or something, the person on the other end is not developing all these ideas, about, they're not even thinking about it. They're just happy to get the email. So I think sometimes with work stress, we're so worried about what our boss thinks and what our customer thinks, or what this person thinks, or our coworkers think. And it's like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. Like, everyone's so in their own world. And if they're not, if they are the type of person that is like very, thinking about others all the time and like kind of catty and like they're not happy. Like, like that isn't something to be desired either. And so I think that, we all we can control is ourselves. All we can control is our own emotional state. All we can control is the way that we interact with the world and the way that we process this information in the world. And some people let everything stress them because that's how they're wired. And like, people just get stressed out over everything, and that's just who they are. And unless they do some work and do some digging, like, they're always going to be like that. And there's other people that you'll meet that literally do not get stressed over anything. Whatever happens, they're cool. They're calm. Nothing can ruffle them. And that's a very interesting way to live as well. Sometimes it's frustrating because you're like, you should be upset about this, but they're not. But we all control our own emotional state, and sometimes our emotions can control us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's for the majority. Most people, I say we control our emotions, but I think the majority of people are controlled by their emotions. And that's why we're so easily hijacked with these news stories, these traumatic stories. We get swept away. We get swept into these pulled into these emotional states, because we cannot just go, hold on, wait a second. Before I just watched a really emotional video, before I let myself go there, let me think about it, let me process it.
Yeah.
Instead, we are just in it. From the second we start watching, we're just in it, and it's like, yeah. So, and we can be emotionally manipulated by things that we know are not real, like by scary
Yes.
movies and by sad movies. Like
Yeah.
we're like, we leave the theater feeling, you see a really scary movie, you leave the theater very scared. It could last for more than just a day. You could be freaked out for a whole month, depending on how scary the movie is. But we know it's not real,
Yeah.
And so it just kind of goes to show, this whole thing's a movie in a way.
Yes.
Whole thing. Yeah.
Our
Character.
human existence is a psyop.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, everything that's fed to us, I guess it is. Yeah, the initial actual life here around us is real, but I feel like everything that was our history, like you said, medicine in the beginning, education, everything is just to keep us thinking a certain way.
Yeah, to keep us thinking a certain way. History plays a major part of that. There's a saying, he who controls the present controls the past, and he who controls the past controls the future. So that just illustrates, essentially, whoever's in control writes our history. They
Mhm.
control our past.
Yeah.
Whoever and the story of our past dictates where we head in the future. It's like, so it's like a kid learning, you think about a kid in school today, all they're learning is about this negative past. They're
Yeah.
learning so much about all the atrocities that have
Mhm.
ever happened. And this is a story. This is a story that's been formulated, and so they're learning about this really, really awful story. And then you take that out and you shine that light towards the future. That history that they've been taught is probably going to repeat itself, because that's all they know now. Like
Yeah.
they're going, so it's like, you know yeah, I really wonder about, but I think that's a phrase from George Orwell's
Yeah.
book 1984, which is said to be a nonfiction work, but it's like, if you read it, it is
It's
absolutely
spot on.
mind-blowing,
Yeah.
for how applicable it is in today's society. It's basically like a nonfiction work. But that was a quote from there, and it really illustrates that history is essentially a story, and whoever's in control gets to write that story, and then whoever gets to write the story of the past will literally shape whatever happens in our future. um, I think it's powerful to recognize that, and to not be so dictated by what you assume is our past, and even your own past. Sometimes we look back and we have these stories that we tell ourselves about what happened in our past, but sometimes it's just like we've lied to ourselves, like we've created our own little story, because we own that, we own our own story. And I think sometimes that can serve us positively if we, have
Yeah.
something that really negative happened, and we can rewrite it in a positive way, and then that can not burden us. But also sometimes, you have these, you look back on your childhood, and some things that sometimes really negative stuff happens in childhood, and you carry that with you for the rest of your life, and sometimes you never get out from under that. So it really is important to kind of understand what about your own personal story is what you're carrying with you, and how that's affecting you from a day-to-day basis, how it's affecting your longer term things, like your relationships with your like significant others, also with your friends and your family, your coworkers, all sorts of things, just your day-to-day interactions with people. If you're walking through the world, I'll even notice, like, if I'm in a bad mood and I'm just walking through the world, like every interaction I have, whether it's going, picking up lunch or something, like people register me as a negative vibe, and I will have negative interactions. Like people will stand farther away from me or whatever. Like I'm carrying around a ticking time bomb. But if I have a really good day, literally every place I go, whether it's the post office or, walking my dog, everyone's just saying hello
Yeah.
and hi, how are you? And it's like, I created that reality just for myself because of the emotions that I'm allowing in my body. Like I'm literally making my own reality as I go. I'm rendering in real time my own game called life. and I'm experiencing it through my own mental state, whether that's good or bad. I am coloring my own world through my own emotional experience, and
Yes.
I think we could all do to try to get that back a little bit.
Yes. Before we end this, before we get out of here, I have two questions.
Sure.
First one is the correlation between the lines of purple and MK Ultra.
Okay, I have a theory here. So MK Ultra essentially is all about the manipulation through thought control, like
Okay.
mind manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
M meaning mind, and C and K being control, but it's like a German word. Mien control, I
Wait,
think.
M meaning what?
Mind, like
Mind and
mind control.
yeah, okay, and then
Yeah,
K meaning.
MK Ultra. K meaning it's German, K control,
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
like MK Ultra, it's like the German, because I believe MK Ultra was essentially started by the Germans. That's the story,
Okay.
and so it's a German abbreviation of MK and
Okay.
K control. But it also, when you really think about these colors, something that really clicked for me is the line of purples, magenta being in the center, magenta being M, and K being black, which is in color space. We think CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. K actually represents black in color space. So MK Ultra is essentially like magenta, black, and ultraviolet. It's almost like a representation how these colors are mind control. These colors themselves, the line of purples, represent illusion, manipulation, fabrication, deception, essentially. And so when you think about what is controlling our mind, what is controlling our thought, and how these colors are used to control our
Mind.
thought,
Yeah.
essentially, our mind.
Yeah.
So these, and that's not necessarily anything that's proven. It's just a theory that I have of mine. It just kind of correlates how these colors represent a certain thing. They're used as almost like a form of like weaponized visualization. It's like weapons of mass deception. These colors kind of hide in plain sight, signaling unreality, signaling illusion, signaling deception. But most people can't see them. And then once you're aware of them, then you look back at, and so it's kind of like mind control through colors.
Yeah.
That's not to say that because MK Ultra is in all sorts of government literature. Like there was supposedly a program about it. They did all sorts of experiments on people. I don't know if that's all like a fabrication and that never happened, or that did happen and it was as bad as they say, and it was like all these people that really their brains got scrambled and all sorts of stuff. I don't know. It's just a thought experiment that I had for myself when early on when I discovered the line of purples. Could there be a connection between M, magenta, K, black as MK Ultra?
The reason it clicked for me and it kind of made sense was because I follow the entertainment industry as well, like artists and all that stuff, and I started noticing a lot of the pink and purple and a lot of this stuff, and allegedly, a lot of these people are still my MK Ultra control, so I was like, maybe she's onto something there too,
Yeah, I've noticed it significantly. I mean, it's very, very rare now that you see like a professional, like very famous artist that is not color coded in this way. And there's a really recent example, Billie Eilish, the girl with the green hair. She had this viral thing it went viral recently. She was holding up this pink shoe, and she's like, "What color is this shoe?" Some people were seeing the pink. It's kind of like that blue dress, yellow dress thing. Some people were seeing the shoe as pink and white. Some people were seeing it as blue and gray. And that alone, that in and of itself, I was like, okay, here we go. Like this is it. This is the representation of these colors. We all experience these colors in a different way, and they're like telling us in plain sight. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. And then you look at pictures of Kanye West. Like every single one of his photos has purple in it. You really can't. In all of his album covers, like they all are like a shade of purple. They'll have include a shade of purple. It's really difficult to find any picture of him without purple in it these days. He doesn't do any appearances without purple. That's curious. Or pink. Pink's a big color. But pink is a purple. Pink is a shade of purple. So that's something to remember. It's along the lines of purple. or I'm sorry, line of purple. There's
Yeah.
a line of purples. There's only one line called the line of purples. Purples is plural. Lines is not. Just one
Okay.
line. It's
Yeah,
like
cause
all the shades.
yeah, I see it. I see it in everything that I'm into too. I'm like, oh, the pink and all this. I'm like, it correlates. Throughout the whole spectrum. It's like,
Yeah.
man, who knows?
And when you realize that those colors are themselves illusions,
Yeah, I didn't
like
know that.
the color pink does not exist. The
Yeah.
color pink is just an illusion we experience in our brain. And I'll post. There's a really cool video that explains it. I'll send that to you. Maybe you can post it with this because I think it's all about the color pink and how it doesn't exist. But it basically shows how this happens in our brain. Our brain's like connecting these dots, making these leaps. It's doing this for us. It's creating this color illusion for us. So when you realize that the colors themselves, purple and pink, that they are not real colors. There's not a real wave of light for purple like there is for red or orange or yellow. Or green, there's not a single pure wavelength of light for these colors, that they're like an amalgamation, an approximation, a mixing of things. You just alone on that thought, you're like, oh, so these kind of illusion colors are now seen everywhere, and they're connected with things that may not be real. I think just to know that the colors themselves are illusions, then you see that they're being put on all these subjects. It's like, well, maybe it's saying that the subject is an illusion, So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to take it bit by bit and then make these broader understanding, these broader leaps for yourself, But it's interesting. For me, I find it fascinating because it helps me make a little bit more sense of a lot of these things that don't make sense in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it helps me kind of
It's
wrap
fun.
yeah, it's fun to think
It's
it,
fun.
I like contrarian thought. I like thinking in ways that nobody else has thought before. I think that's for as many people as there are on the planet, to have a unique
Yeah.
thought, that's
Uh,
pretty special, even if it's wrong. I think that that's cool, like that you can come
yeah.
up with something that nobody else has thought before.
But
um
you make
so-
solid points though. Like it's not like you're just saying things and then just saying it. You're putting the
right.
pictures up. You're showing people. You put definitions up. And it's like I'm not telling you this is real, but hey, there's too many coincidences.
Yeah, it's all about pointing out the coincidences, and I hope people can see that. I hope people can see the spirit of that on my page. That it's not like I'm not trying to say that I am like the person that has all of the knowledge, all of the answers. I'm just a really curious person,
Yeah.
and I share what I see, and I hope that that's the spirit that it comes across. That like believe what makes sense to you, but this is something that makes sense to me, and that's why I'm sharing it. I don't expect everyone to agree, and I don't expect everyone to see what I see, but I certainly see it, and I think that others are starting to see in the same way.
Well, people like me appreciate it 100%.
I appreciate you talking. Yeah.
One last question. Where do you see the future of humanity going in these next few months?
The next few months,
Or just
just in
yeah,
general,
in general, but especially the next few months.
I think that 2020 means clarity for a reason. I think that there is something very special about this year, and we're almost done with the year, but I have this feeling that something very, very, very significant will happen for us, with us, amongst all of us this year. I think that 2020 means clarity. It means understanding. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think we've been told that our whole lives, that 2020 means clarity,
Yeah.
and it has nothing to do with our vision. I think that it's
Oh.
just a coincidence that or a planned coincidence that
Oh,
2020 is how we're going
programming
to
us,
start.
huh?
Yeah,
Damn.
I think that there is absolutely something about this year. I awokened on January 8th of this year. I had like a total revelation, but it happened in 2020. So for
Mm.
me, my personal veil lifting happened in this year. And if it can happen for me, like something like that, where literally within an instant, everything looked different, everything changed. I had this almost lightning bolt of an understanding. That's what it felt like. It felt like literally a lightning bolt, and everything would just totally change, like poof, in an instant. Like the veil for me was lifted, and I saw everything differently. I think that is going to happen. I think that is going to happen this year for us, for humanity. I do think that there is like a mass. People talk about the Great Awakening with the QAnon.
Mhm.
That's not what I'm.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the day where all of these Democrats are going to be arrested. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about a greater understanding, a shared understanding, a shared revelation that everything that we have thought to be solid and cemented and true, could be called into question. And I think that many people will begin to see things very differently and much more clearly. I hope and if that happens, then I think that we have the opportunity to ascend in a very real, a metaphorical way, but also a very real way. I think that we could ascend to a life that is so different than what we're experiencing now. I think that there could be a next step in humanity, like talk about like one small step for mankind or one giant leap for mankind. I think that we could make a giant leap here in this realm and experience life in a totally different way if enough people are able to awaken to the understanding that this is not the end all be all for what we are capable of. We're capable of so much more. Humanity is capable of so much more. We're so much better than what we're shown on TV and shown through our screens. And I think that we are capable. We're so much more powerful, and we're so much more connected. And
Yes.
and we are the technology. We are the just because we're organic biological beings doesn't mean we're not a form of technology. We just have this idea that technology is like built like a rope, like but I think that maybe Mother Nature is like the most sophisticated code writing entity, and like we're all following our DNA is code. Plants you look around in nature, all plants follow this like very specific mathematical structuring.
Sacred
We're
geometry.
all like code driven. We're all pre-programmed. We're out of the box. We're all like, we all form in these certain ways. We grow in these certain ways. We're all pre-programmed, pre-scripted. I think that there's so much, we're meant for so much better than what we're experiencing now. And I think that a lot of the pain, a lot of the like the earthly suffering that we live in and experience every day, I think that a lot of that could be lifted from us once we kind of unencumber ourselves from this story that this is what we're meant to be doing as humans. Like we're meant to be, going to college, and we're meant to be buying a house, and we're meant to be living in these in these cities, and we're meant to be working every day for someone else, and we're meant to be I think and the fact that we even believe money is true and money is real and that's what makes the world go round, all that's bullshit. All that it may be powerful, but it doesn't mean it's real. And so what's next? So this year my money's on humanity. I'm all in on humans. I put all my money on us making it through this year. And I think that something really significant is going to happen this year. I hope. If not, well, we've got more to do. But this year is significant. I think a lot of people are waking up in a way that means for them this year.
I just feel like it's either gonna go in a super negative way or a super positive way. No in between. I don't think it's gonna be like whatever people think normal is or going back to normal. That's out of the picture. Because either it's gonna be way better than our last years of existence or way worse than our last years of existence. Me personally.
Right. Yeah. It's gotta change though. It's gotta tip one way or the other. You're right.
It's gotta tip one way or the other. Are you into numerology?
Not really.
You don't know your life path number?
Mm-mm.
Because you sound like a you
Same
sound like
thing
a
with
master. Gematria is cool. It's cool. I like numerology.
I don't know anything about it. I'll have to get some numerology tips from you.
Because you definitely either a 3 life path, a 7 life path, or a 33 life path.
And how do I know that? By my birthday?
You add each digit of your birthday individually. Were you born on the 5th?
No.
14th? 23rd?
No.
Okay. I thought you'd probably be born like on a 5-day energy. But no, yeah, you just add each number of your birthday individually. And then if you get 11, don't simplify it. If you get 22, don't simplify it. If you get 33, don't simplify it. You'll either be 11. Those are master numbers, so you don't simplify them. Other than
Okay,
that,
I'll do that. I'm sure there's a website where I can put in my information and get my life path number.
be wary about websites though, because they are, they're very, very wary,
All
very
right,
tricky.
I'll send you my info offline,
Yeah,
and you
and
can talk
I got like stuff that I can send you to, like little,
about that.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on Conspiracy and speaking your truth. I really appreciate people like you that think for themselves and have their own perspective and just want to make people look at things a different way. I'm all for that.
I appreciate that's what your effort is. That's what it sounds like you do all the time. That's what you're telling your audience to do. I really same. I appreciate you and everything that you're trying to get out there. And thanks for having me on. I really appreciate just even the conversation. It was fun
Yes.
to talk to someone who has an open mind and who is curious and thinks big, a bigger way, bigger picture.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you, Chris.
I appreciate you. Human vibration. Talk to you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, bye. There you guys have it. Human vibration. Shout out to her for coming on Conspiracy. I told you guys I was going up all October. And we got spooky. So go back and tap into all the episodes I dropped this month. Start with Hello October and just play the whole month. As a matter of fact, go back and play since episode 1 if this is your first episode listening. If you're coming from Human Vibrations following, please do me a solid and go listen to Conspiracy if you like what you heard this episode. Please share my episodes. Subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. And let's get this shit up. Let's get Conspiracy going up. I love the episode. That was amazing to me. I like people that come on here and have their own perspective, have their own views, and they share and they talk their truth, whether we agree or disagree. Me personally, I lean more towards the agreeing part. But that's me, because y'all already know how I'm rocking. You guys already know Conspiracy. You guys know how I rock. You guys know that I like the unusual shit. And like I tell you guys every episode, the truth is stranger than fiction. But I appreciate when someone like herself is forming a new type of theory. I've never heard the line of purples anywhere else but through the Human Vibration on Twitter. So go check out her Twitter at Human Vibration. You will not regret it, because she makes you question everything. And don't get upset. Like, y'all might be getting mad that some of y'all favorite peoples ain't even real. But that's the sad part, that we are affected by that shit because we care so much and we've invested so much energy into certain buildings, into certain celebrities, into certain materials, into certain symbolisms, and it's fucked up. It's fucked up. But when she starts breaking down how pink is not a color, how purple is not a color, and the way she talks about it, where it's the end spectrum of the rainbow and how it connects to the other, it bridges to the other part, and it's basically the illusion. And when you start looking at videos that go viral and shit, just look, there's a lot of illusion going on. So to me, it's just a new perspective and different word. I mean, it's kind of like an old perspective. I'm not gonna lie, but it's just in a different type of wording, because when she's saying pink is fake and the lines of this, and when you watch videos, this might be fake based off this color, it might be mean illusion. Okay, that probably is a thing though. Like, I already know they lie to us on videos. I know deepfakes are real, but now that she's even breaking it down more, start looking for the colors in those videos. Cause like how I asked her, do we maybe elites know that certain color on that video means that it is an illusion, so that means they're working for them? Who knows? What if they're speaking to other people with these colors and the perception they're giving us on these screens? So shout out to Human Vibration. Amazing conversation. It was amazing to get to just sit down and talk with her and just pick her brain a little bit and see how she thinks. So I'm all appreciated for that. But I told you guys October was going up. We are at the end of October. It's October 28th. It's my birthday. I'm in Miami. I don't know why I decided to drop an episode, but fuck it. It is October and it's my birthday, so why not? I told you guys I'm going up all month, and I had to end it with a banger. I had to end it with Human Vibration. So, see y'all when I see y'all. See y'all next month. Hey, just stay. Hold on. I'm gonna let y'all. I'm gonna say that before I end. Next time I tap in with y'all. Let me see. what is it? What is it gonna be? Will it be the date already? So next time I type in with y'all is gonna be November 4th. And y'all might get an episode early depending on what happens election day. I might, who knows? Y'all gonna hear from me one way or another, man. See y'all next week. CHRISPIRACY.
From the very beginnings of unrecorded time, men have reached for substances in the world around them that would alter, extend, and materially change their perception of reality.